You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of kizuki as the following. Kizuki 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler, and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, the slow death of the doer. So if the spiral is the shape of our becoming, then it probably looks and feels like life is just spinning around and around, coming back to the same lessons I thought I had already learned. I wanted to do an episode on what it actually feels like to live the spiral, to be amidst the process of going around and around, which I hope, I know a lot of us go through, so I don't think I'm the only one. Today's episode is a slow motion retelling of that process. I'm going to try my best to verbalize it, and in doing so, I hope it helps to bring you to a new level of clarity and understanding, because that's what it gave me. Okay. So just the other day, I found myself struggling with the same old issue, working toward my next dream, doing everything in my power to make it happen, and just still feeling unrewarded, ignored even, like it wasn't enough, which then triggered that deeper internal question. Maybe I'm not enough. And then came the fall, the loop. What can I do to be enough? What more do you need from me? If I can just identify what exactly is needed here, then maybe I could finally get it. Finally, somehow make it happen. But then came the kizuki, the realization. This was about my powerlessness. Not the theoretical kind of powerlessness I know about, but the kind that hurts to admit. The kind the ego fights tooth and nail. Because it's true. There are some things in life, many things, where you can do everything right, be the most prepared, the most aligned, the most willing, and still not get the result you want when you want it. In other words, you still feel like a failure, a perfect failure. And the real realization wasn't just knowing this. It was seeing that some part of me deeply did not want to admit it, because that would mean surrendering my last sense of control, trying. And with that seeing, I softened. I had to, because I saw her, the doer, still working so hard to figure it all out. And when the doer learns that surrender is the only next step, if you're not careful, she'll double down on trying to surrender. And by she, I mean me. The classic I surrender is told like it's a spell that will finally unlock the next thing, the thing you want. But not really. Not necessarily, right? Especially not when the I in I surrender is what needs to be surrendered most. That's when it hit me. All of my surrender up to now had been a tad bit effortful, like I was trying my best to surrender. Maybe a bit performative that way. There was still a me that was doing the surrender, which meant my surrender was never complete. I hadn't surrendered the part of me that had gotten me this far, the doer, the one who thinks she must keep earning her way forward. And that's the scary part, because I don't know what to do with that realization. I found myself asking myself, well, what do I do with it? What do I do about it? Because there's nothing, there's no more doing to do, right? Just a quiet recognition. This is how the mind works, gripping the handlebars, looking for the next thing to do because it believes it has to. It's like the whole mechanism of the mind. That's what it's there for. And me, I've been gripping for so long. So what now? What after that realization? I felt like I just needed to sit down and meditate. Not on strength, not on alignment, not on the next thing to do, but entirely on my very own powerlessness. The powerlessness of me. That was the focus of my meditation. It just felt like the right thing to do. Or maybe it was the only thing I felt I could do. In many ways, it's the opposite of what I often teach about or speak and write about, which is self-empowerment. And yet, there it was, my kizuki. Such recognition can be the doorway to understanding. I was beginning to see the full picture. See, I thought I was failing. I even thought that I was failing at surrender. But no, I wasn't failing at surrender. On the contrary, I was being shown what surrender truly is. Surrender of doership is. Ouch. Or shall I say, thank you? And yes, of course it terrifies the one, me, who has been gripping the wheel for so long. But this time around the spiral, I think I'm learning that powerlessness is not necessarily a weakness, at least not in this context. It's more like a sublime return. It's what remains when the false sense of self or doership bows to something greater. Humility to the greater flow of nature. I gotta be careful. It's not even about trying to unbecome the doer. It's only purely about just recognizing that, yeah, there's an aspect of me that is the doer or that identifies with the doer, but ultimately, I am not the doer. I am the one who sees the effort, sees the trying, and sees even the doer. But as you know, I think you know, and I'm learning, in moments of darkness, we call it avidya in Sanskrit terms, right? In yoga, avidya is the word for ignorance, of not seeing that you're not seeing. When that level of darkness clouds my vision, it's like I'm completely identified with that small self, that doer. I'm enmeshed. I'm the doer, and I'm the one who has flunked again and again, and I begin to feel hurt and lowly, low worth and abandoned. So the other day when I felt that ache of, am I being ignored? Do I not matter? In that pain and fog, I reached for a new perspective, even if reluctantly. I mean, that's what suffering does to you, right? Suffering helps to shake you awake. And eventually, I saw that it wasn't me that felt hurt, that felt small. It was just a part of me, a wounded child part of me that was having its moment of enmeshment. And slowly, taking a few deep breaths, I eased back into my center and back into seeing more clearly. I relinquished the fight with reality as it is. Not that anything changed, not that what I wanted to happen happened, not that, when I wanted it to happen, happened when I wanted it to happen, but just that I stopped fighting with things the way they are, exactly the way they are. So let me attempt to spell it out for you. It's like this. 1, identify with the doer. That's the effort, trying, not quite in flow. That's the doership part, right? 2, so enmeshed in the doership that I'm unknowing as to how I'm actually pulling away from flow and from nature. 3, agonize and suffer that things aren't going my way. And here, notice the not so subtle emphasis of my way, my timing. 4, reach. The suffering is too much. I need to see this another way. And so the suffering kind of shakes you awake. 5, see. Oh my God. I was so focused on my way, my timing, my little self. Shit. Next comes the remembrance. Oh yeah, well, of course. I'm not the one in control here. I thought I was. The doer thought she was, but I never was. She never was. I'm just a piece of the puzzle, just simply trying my best. And herein comes the arrival of compassion and perspective. And finally, rest and return to, what I referred to earlier as powerlessness. But maybe another way to put it is humility in the face of what is, because fighting reality is not something, it's not a battle that you're going to win, right? So that powerlessness, I'm beginning to sense, it also feels like leaning back and resting on an energetic couch of isness, of being. Things just are the way they are, and all is well. Does that sound messy or right? Because it totally is, and that's exactly what the spiral feels like. I'm hoping that some of you listening may have been there before. That is the mess, the spiral. This is the pathway upward. And dare I say, this is the way of evolution, right? Like the pulsation, the contraction and the release and the flow of life. Here's my takeaway this time around, which I hope maybe some of you will take to heart too. So when you're failing, when you feel like you're failing because you get swept into the storm and you're so identified and enmeshed with the doer and you feel low and you feel hurt and you feel worthless, don't think you are failing, because recognizing it, even if after the fact, that is the seeing, that is the pulse of life. And perhaps it's actually a clever, beautiful, and beautifully messy part of the spiraling staircase upward that we agonize through this process only to wake up to the disillusionment of this control and power that we thought we had, that we never truly had. Humbling, right? And just that noticing again and again is the return home. And maybe that's grace. As messy as it looks and sounds, maybe that's grace in motion in human form. You know, in that sense, every turn might be bringing you higher, even if it feels like the same step again. The mind says, if I were truly surrendered, I shouldn't be here again. But the soul maybe says, you are seeing it sooner, returning faster, softening deeper. Even though for me, actually this time around, I didn't see it faster. I didn't return faster. Oh my God, I took my sweet time in the whole process. But I can say, I definitely feel softer. And that softness, maybe that's the miracle. Maybe that's the sense that instead of hardening through it all, something in me unwound itself. The ego measures progress in speed and control, and the soul, of course, doesn't measure. But for the sake of this conversation, if it did, perhaps it would be measured in softness, willingness, and surrender. The willingful surrender of the I, the doer herself. Which leaves, well, nothingness. Nothing but just the human aspects of me, agonizing long enough once again for the kizuki to rise in me. It's not always comfortable, but hey, you know what? It's infinitely real. And softness, I know now, it means I'm safe inside my own being again. It's safe for me to just be me. Thank you for listening. Learn more about me and my Kizuki journaling Mae Y method at my website, kizukijournaling.com. That's KIZUKIJOURNALING.com. Or find me on Instagram at MaeYoshikawa.